and welcome to New Jersey Politics with Laura Jones. I am Laura Jones, and we are so glad to have you here. New Jersey's 2025 gubernatorial election is right around the corner, and it is shaping up to be a defining moment for the state and maybe even the nation. Recently, the Fund for New Jersey brought together big voices at NJPAC in Newark for the Crossroads New Jersey Conversations event, tackling hot-button issues like immigration, voting rights, and social justice. Standing by is Brandon McCoy, president of the Fund for New Jersey. First, though, with the federal Real ID deadline coming up on May 7th, many New Jersey residents are scrambling to update their licenses, and they're hitting a roadblock. Long wait times and limited appointment availability at the New Jersey Motor Vehicles Commission have left countless residents frustrated as they try to comply with the federal travel requirements. We're joined by Mercer County Clerk Paula Salami-Cavello to discuss the growing concerns, what her office is doing to help, and what options residents still have as the clock ticks down. It's so good to see you, Paula. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Laura. It's great to see you as well.
Absolutely. All right. So you may not have the ability to get us an appointment at Motor Vehicles, but you have some solutions for us. What can you tell us, first of all, about Real ID, what people need to know about Real ID?
Yes. Okay. Well, on May 7th of 2025, even if you're flying domestically or if you want to enter a federal facility or even a nuclear power plant, you have to have a Real ID, which is a federal ID that meets certain standards. Now, Real ID is something that many people are getting on their driver's licenses. It's a driver's license that has a star in the upper right corner. And as you stated, it's very difficult to get these appointments right now. However, a passport is Real ID, and it meets federal requirements for domestic plane travel and entering federal facilities.
Yeah, so what people are realizing is you have to make an appointment at Motor Vehicles in order to get Real ID. You can do it when your license renewed. Again, this is going back to post 9/11. This was aimed at making sure that people's identities are verified. The deadline has been pushed off for nearly 2 decades, and now the federal government is enforcing it. And people can't get an appointment. You go on at all hours of Motor Vehicles to try to get an appointment. You just can't get an appointment. But again, you can go and get a passport. Can you talk a little bit about what the process is, how people can go about it, what they need to do, identification? Because again, if you can't get on with Motor Vehicles and you need to travel, passport's going to be your only option. But that feels really intimidating to a lot of people.
Yes, sure. So passports are available at every county clerk's office in New Jersey. You can make an appointment. We don't actually process the passports, but we process the application, which goes through the U.S. Department of State. So you come in, you pay $130. It's good for 10 years. And then you pay the $35 fee to the county. And we also, in our county, will take a picture for you as well. So you have your passport photo, and we can do it all in one place. And you need to bring a birth certificate, which is the long form birth certificate, and it has both parents' names on it. You also should bring your driver's license, if you have a driver's license, or if not, you can get a non-driver's license from the Division of Motor Vehicles, which also is acceptable. And then you need to have maybe another form, like something that shows where you live, like a bill. And then you also do need to bring 2 checks or 2 money orders. You have to have one for the U.S. Department of State, and you have another one for the county fee. Passports are also processed at some postal offices throughout the United States as well.
Yeah, and as far as deadline goes, it does take some time. You can expedite, but typically how long does it take to get your passport?
Yes, typically it takes 4 to 6 weeks. If you expedite, they say you can get it in 2 weeks. You have to pay an additional fee to expedite, but for some people that's worth it.
Right. So because they simply can't get an appointment, and there really is not clear information on when more appointments will be made available. We reached out to Motor Vehicles, and they said, well, we're trying to add 3,500 appointments. And I did a little research. There are about over 1 million Real IDs have been issued, and you have over 9 million people in the state of New Jersey. Of course, not all are over 18, not all need the Real ID. But you're the county, you're Mercer County Clerk. What do you think is going on here? I put some stuff out on Facebook, and it seems a lot of people are very frustrated, but other people are saying, hey, listen, This has been a thing for years. You had time. Why didn't you do it? Can you give any perspective or what you're observing when it comes
Yeah,
to the
I do
information?
think that many people are not aware that now you need it to fly domestically. And I think that this is going to be an issue in May when people realize that they can't go to Florida to visit a family member without the passport or the real ID. So it is very important that people comply. There is a less expensive option. I don't think everyone's aware of this, but now that we're starting to run into this timeline, people are starting to come for the passport card. So if you choose not to get a passport book, you can get a passport card, which is the same size as a driver's license. It's much less expensive. It's only $30 plus your county fee, and it's the size of a driver's license. So people like that, but it has limited use. That you can't travel internationally with a passport card, but you can travel domestically, and you'll be able to travel to border countries like Canada, Mexico, and some of the islands.
Okay,
So
so
that's another option.
yeah, that can be another option. And again, when it comes to publicizing and getting the word out, can you tell us a little bit about some of your efforts? Because again, typically you get a renewal. If you are a license holder in New Jersey, you'll get a renewal, and it'll say, well, you can renew it by mail, or at certain points you do have to come in. But some people they're not paying attention. They're just, oh, I'll hit it by mail, and then they get their license that says not a real ID. So can you tell us about some of your efforts to get the word out and how long you've been working to try and spread the word?
Yeah, well, for myself and the other county clerks, I know I've been issuing press releases trying to say it's also drumming up business for our counties by saying, come in and get a passport. It's an option. You can now travel. So we're trying to do press releases. We're doing, social media posts. I'm doing interviews like with you and with others to just make sure that people are aware that this deadline is coming and it is going to prevent you from traveling. It's going to prevent you from entering a federal courthouse. Federal parks may be affected. So there are a lot of places that you're not going to be able to go come May 7th. And we're just trying to make sure people are aware.
Right, right. And that is really interesting because people are focused on the travel, not necessarily entering into a federal building, and you don't realize until you're there. What do you think the enforcement is going to be like? Is there going to be, well, this is a hard and fast deadline, is there going to be any grace period given to people if they show up at the airport and they're realizing, oh gosh, I didn't know? Are you being told anything are you just out of luck? Too bad.
Yeah.
You have to either go back and wait 4 to 6 weeks for your passport, or who knows when to get a motor vehicles appointment. What are you being told?
I am hearing no extensions. Now, remember, we had several extensions before because this act was supposed to take place in 2020, but then COVID hit and they extended it. And from my understanding, then they extended it again in 23, now to 25. So I don't believe they will be extending it again. This time they're going to enforce it.
Now, have you been in contact with the New Jersey Motor Vehicles Commission about these appointment issues? Are people coming to you, saying, hey, can you help me with motor vehicles? Because again, people, they need help. They'll ask, whoever will listen to them if you can help. I mean, I'm asking you, hey, Can you help me out?
I have received many calls on this, and I have spoken with motor vehicles about it. I've spoken with their public information officer, William Connolly, and he's been great about telling me they're adding additional appointments. They have mobile units that go to certain assembly person offices throughout the state. They're trying to help accommodate as many people as possible. But I do think that the demand is so high right now that they aren't going to be able to meet the demand. So even for myself, I have a passport. I'll be using that until the lines go down, and then I'll get my real ID.
Okay, well that's okay, right. That's another thing is when we reached out to motor vehicles, one of the responses was, well, you really need to think if you need a real ID. I have a passport, therefore I can travel. So should I be, in the line? Whereas my kids don't. My kids are just now getting just now getting driver's licenses, or have only received in the past couple of years because they're teenagers still.
Right. Well, they are saying the real ID is only required for 18 years and older. So if you are under 18, as long as you're traveling with an adult that has the compliant real ID, you should be fine. And if you are traveling alone under 18, I don't know the answer to that because from my understanding, the TSA is making those decisions and you probably need to talk to your airline if like a child 15 years old is traveling alone. But if an 18-year-old or someone under 18 is traveling with a parent who has real ID, they should be fine.
Yeah, when it comes to the points of identification for New Jersey motor vehicles, you have to provide 6 points of identification in order to get your license. Now there are 2 other steps, 2 plus 1 plus 6. When it comes to getting your passport, why are there less requirements when it comes to presenting ID for a passport that allows you to go in and out of other countries as opposed to driving in the state of New Jersey? I'm always trying to rectify all the extra forms of ID you have to show in New Jersey. Do you have an answer?
I really don't know the answer. I know that, I follow the requirements of the U.S. Department of State, and we provide them with what they require. But I do believe that when they issued the Real ID law, it was post 9/11. And they said, this is going to come into effect eventually. And I think it was probably just a way to sort of make it stronger, the requirements to come in and out of the United States or travel within the United States. But I don't know the reasons for that.
All right, for all of the layers that you need to get your driver's license in New Jersey. So finally, do I have to live in Mercer County if I want to come to your office? Like, what can you tell us about making an appointment? Do you need an appointment? What do you need to do if you are in this jam and you need to get identification in order to travel or to go into a federal building?
Yes, you do not need an appointment to come to my Trenton office. Our Trenton location is 209 South Broad Street. But you do need it we have another location in Hamilton, the Mercer County Connection. And for that office, you do need an appointment because we are very busy there. We've had quite a lot of people coming in for IDs recently and for passports given the new Real ID requirement. So you do need one there. And that does depend on the county. Every county clerk's office is different with regard to appointments. And also post offices, some require appointments and some don't. So you need to look at that ahead of time. When you come in, we will make sure that we can take your picture here in Mercer as well. And you don't need to be a Mercer resident to come to Mercer to get your passport. You can be a resident from another county. We prefer that you're a resident of our county, and I know the other counties would as well. But legally, as long as you're a U.S. citizen, you can go to any passport office.
All right. Now, I know Hunterdon County, which is where I live, you need an appointment for that county clerk. But again, when I was posting about this on Facebook, I heard Mercer County that you take the best passport photos. That's what a little birdie told me.
Wow, that's great to hear. Thanks for letting me know.
So final thoughts, is there information people can go to the county clerk? Where do they go to get more information on what they need so they don't travel all the way to the county clerks only to find out, ooh, I don't have everything I need. Oh, I needed to print something ahead of time.
Oh, sure. For my office, you would go to www.mercercounty.org, click on County Clerk, and then you would go to the Office Services. And under Office Services, we have passport information, and it has everything you need to bring in detail. But I also will say that the state has recommended that for people who want Real ID, they should go to realid.nj.gov. That is the state Real ID information portal, and you can make an appointment for a motor vehicle there as well. So if you want to go to my office, mercercounty.org, or the state portal as well.
Yeah, so while it is almost impossible, it feels like, to get appointments for motor vehicles right now, county clerks have some solutions. There are options. You're not necessarily going to be out of luck, but you do need to act quite promptly.
Yes, yes, you do. Because, as I said, the expedite is 2 weeks, so you need to come along.
Yeah.
We'll try to get you in here.
Paula, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Laura.
Absolutely.
Great seeing you.
Food brings people together. On Cooking with Copel, we combine culinary creativity with good conversation. This spring, we've invited all the candidates for governor to come into the Montclair kitchen, teach me to cook their favorite dish, and give the people of New Jersey a chance to get to know the individuals who would lead our state. It's going to be a fun and exciting way to get really involved in the democratic process. Can't wait to see you there.
New Jersey's 2025 gubernatorial election is fast approaching, and with it, a critical moment that could signal where the nation is headed politically. Recently, on April 16th, the Fund for New Jersey hosted the Crossroads New Jersey Conversations event at NJPAC in Newark. It's a day-long forum that was diving into the state's most pressing issues, from immigration policy to voting rights and social justice. But the conversation doesn't just stop there, with more events planned this year. Now joining us is Brandon McCoy. He is the president of the Fund for New Jersey, to talk a little bit about the discussions and talk more about what's ahead as the gubernatorial race heats up. Brandon, it's good to have you with us.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here with you.
So can you tell us just a little bit about what your organization is all about?
Absolutely. So the Fund for New Jersey is actually a philanthropic foundation that looks to support and improve the quality of decision making when it comes to public policy issues in the state. And so we're trying to make sure that New Jerseyans are both aware of the issues that are happening, properly informed on them, and that their voices are really, really heard. Oftentimes, the voices of citizens and residents are not given as much attention or priority as they should be. And so we're really focused on making sure that people have the opportunity and the information necessary to have vital conversations, especially now as we head into the gubernatorial election. It's more important than ever.
Right. Well, you have candidates when they're running, they certainly have their talking points, they have their issues that they want to talk about, but you want to make sure that that is actually reflecting what the people of the state say. Can you just tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So actually about 8 years ago, the Fund for New Jersey produced this series, Crossroads New Jersey, and produced a series of reports that were looking at the various challenges that were facing the state. And so that includes things like transportation, education, climate, you name it. And so we're actually looking at what were the recommendations made in those series of reports, how have we done over the past 8 years, and what do we still need to address, and what new things have popped up over these past 8 years. And so those reports were produced in collaboration with community, with experts, with policy representatives. And we're really hoping that as we move into this important election, folks are focusing on New Jersey, right? There's a lot that's going on. Sometimes the national conversation can suck the oxygen out of the room and really take up a lot of attention. But we have a very unique state with unique issues and unique challenges. And New Jerseyans deserve to know who's going to be representing them in the years ahead.
And when you talk about how, national discourse sometimes sucks the air out of the room, one of the topics when you're talking about pressing issues in the state, it's always about affordability, which is no doubt an issue. But there are so many other issues that affect people's day-to-day lives that aren't getting any coverage. What's the top of your list?
I think definitely, housing is a major issue for folks, making sure it's not only affordable, but it's safe and reliable housing. Transportation, of course, our state relies upon public transportation more than most to get people to work and, back home safely and reliably. And then also, of course, immigration. I mean, 1 in 4 New Jersey residents are foreign born. And so immigration is a big deal for us. It's a big contributor to our economy, making sure that we have as strong of an economy as we can. And especially with regards to the actions that are happening at the federal level, immigration is a major issue that can disrupt the communities that are in this state. And so there's a lot to be talking about. I could go on for sure. There's way more issues than those three, but those are definitely top of the mind for a lot of people that we're talking with and that we're supporting.
Yeah, can you dive a little bit more into the issue of immigration? Because some of the national stories that get headlines are just that. They're headlines. They're not dealing into the realities of what is fact, what is fiction, what is sensationalizing. Do you have stories? Do you have information that you've heard from people as you go out on these tours? What are you hearing from people about what the reality is of what people are facing, what their concerns are when it comes to immigration reforms and what we're seeing under the Trump administration happening at the local and state level?
For sure. I mean, I think, one of the unfortunate things is that the term, immigrants sort of thrown around and sort of used in a sort of fashion that's meant to scare people. But immigrants have built this country. Immigrants are a strong part of this country's history, and they're a strong part of the state's history. The Statue of Liberty, of course, is associated with New York, but that's on Liberty Island, and Liberty Island is in New Jersey, baby. So, that's a part of our history as well. And I just think it's important to realize that when there's conversations about deporting people. Obviously they've been saying that they want to deport people who are criminals, but we've seen already that they're deporting people who have no records, who haven't done anything wrong, who haven't done anything illegal. And it's disrupting communities, it's disrupting families, it's disrupting businesses. And that is, obviously a very harmful thing, not just to those people who are directly impacted in very serious ways, but it's a harmful thing to our state in the future that we hope to build for everybody that lives here. And so really understanding more discreetly and I think being more careful about what is the real story when it comes to immigrants in New Jersey and how they're a significant and important part, not just of our economy, but of our communities.
Yeah. Let's look ahead to some of the upcoming events you have. There's one June 5th at Rutgers in New Brunswick. So can you talk a little bit about some of the themes and how they are evolving and also intersecting with the economy, with economic equity, justice reforms? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So we have 3 more events coming up throughout the end of the year. As you said, we have one on June 5th at Rutgers in New Brunswick. That will be exploring how economic equity and justice reform help drive sustainable growth in New Jersey. We have a very diverse state, and that's one of our strengths. But we understanding how do we make sure that everybody's involved, engaged, and included to be able to live healthy and happy lives is really important. Then we have another event on August 20th in Camden. That's going to be diving into some forward-thinking policy solutions around climate change, climate resilience, environmental equity. We are a coastal state. Flooding is a major threat, obviously. Not the only threat, but a big one. And so understanding what is the game plan going forward when it comes to sort of, rising sea levels and just climate, change in general. What do we need to do to prepare for storms and major damage? That's going to be important to make sure that we are ahead of the curve, not behind the curve. And then the last event will be on October 15th in Princeton, and that will be talking about the 2 issues of housing and education. Those are 2 issues that are often interlinked in really vital ways because we have community schools and whatnot. And so understanding how do we continue to improve our education system, improve public education, public schools, and also how do we make it easier and more affordable for folks to live in their communities, stay in their communities, whether they are, just getting started in life and young adults or if they're retired.
Yeah, and when it comes to education, when it comes to housing, there are state Supreme Court guidelines that state must adhere to when it comes to education, when it comes to affordable housing. So can we talk a little bit more about some of the education concerns that are coming up? Because you hear those running for governor talking about everything from, changing the school funding formula. They talk about, sharing services because it's not necessarily that money that solves the problem when it comes to education. But what can you say about some of the policy conversations you're having as it pertains? Let's first talk about education, then we'll go to affordable housing.
Sure. Well, money may not solve all problems, but it's a big part of the situation, especially when the federal government is threatening to cut funding for public education in such a major way. New Jersey, relative to other states, enjoys a very high quality education, public education system. And so how do we maintain that quality? How do we improve upon that quality? Again, we have a very diverse student population, a lot of English language learners, children with disabilities, with learning challenges. And so how do we actually live up to our values and actually meet the requirements in our state constitution to provide a quality education for all children? That is not something that can be taken lightly. And so folks definitely want to talk about how do we make sure that we are continuing to strengthen the education system in the state while facing some threats and some challenges from the federal level.
Yeah, I mean, and that really, people talk about education. It is the great equalizer. If you have a good education, that sets you up for success. And so much of your education right now majority of it is dependent on your zip code and where you live. That determines the quality of education, or it determines what school you go to. And it's urban areas, they get the short end of the stick.
Absolutely. I mean, I myself grew up in South Orange, New Jersey. That's a suburb of Newark, and there's stark differences between the Newark school system and the South Orange Maplewood school system, right? And so trying to figure out how do we actually make sure that there aren't drastic and stark differences between school districts. How are we making sure that all children are given the opportunity to have a fulfilling and effective education, one that sets them up to live successful lives? And also, how do we move forward in a way where we're making sure that our schools are integrated that we don't, New Jersey has a very segregated school system, a lot due to the way that housing policy has been implemented over the past several decades in the state. We need to have more integrated schools, more integrated communities, and that often involves having to address the challenges and sort of the remnants of redlining and a lot of discriminatory history and policies that have kept communities separate in the past. And so I think that when we move forward on these conversations, we really want to make sure that the community is involved, that lots of people are coming out, that people are having their voices heard, because the governor of New Jersey has a lot of power. In other states, you get to vote for the attorney general, or you get to vote for different department heads. In New Jersey, the governor decides who are in those positions. And so
Right. The
we need to
governor
make sure that we're
appoints
very
those.
informed about who's going to be taking the reins of our state.
And just finally, if people want to find out a little bit more about the Fund for New Jersey, where can they go?
Go to fund4nj.org and you'll find all the information about the Crossroads series there.
All right, Brandon, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yep. And that's going to do it for today. I'm Laura Jones. Thanks so much for watching New Jersey Politics. We look forward to seeing you back here next time.
Food brings people together. On Cooking with Copel, we combine culinary creativity with good conversation. This spring, we've invited all the candidates for governor to come into the Montclair kitchen, teach me to cook their favorite dish, and give the people of New Jersey a chance to get to know the individuals who would lead our state. It's going to be a fun and exciting way to get really involved in the democratic process. Can't wait to see you there.